I never thought the worst betrayal of my life would start with a single envelope left carelessly on the kitchen counter. Before I tell you what happened, and trust me, you need to hear this, let me just say, if you've ever been blindsided by someone you trusted, someone you built a life with, then you already know the sickening weight that settles in your stomach when you realize you never really knew them at all. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from, because this story, it's going to take you on a ride. And if you're someone who loves stories about betrayal, revenge, and justice served cold, hit that subscribe button right now. You're going to want to see how this ends. Also, check the description box for more jaw-dropping stories like this one. My name is Elena Whitman. I'm 34 years old, and up until 6 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I had a good job. No, scratch that, I had a great career. I'm a senior software architect for a mid-sized tech company in Austin, Texas. I'd clawed my way up from an entry-level coding position right out of college, survived countless late nights, impossible deadlines, sexist managers, and the kind of imposter syndrome that makes you feel like a fraud even when you're the one solving problems no one else can touch. I earned my place. Every promotion. Every raise. Every dollar. And I earned a lot of dollars. That's where the trouble started. See, my husband, ex-husband now, but we'll get to that. His name was Colin. Colin Marsh. We met in our mid-20s at a mutual friend's barbecue. He was charming in that easy, all-American way. Tall, broad-shouldered, quick with a joke, always knew how to make me laugh when I was stressed. He worked in sales for a logistics company, made decent money, or at least that's what I thought at the time. We got married 3 years after we started dating, had a small ceremony in Hill Country, and moved into a modest 2-bedroom house on the east side of Austin. For the first few years, things were good. We split bills. We talked about having kids someday. We went on weekend trips to Galveston and San Antonio. Normal couple stuff. But here's the thing about normal, it only lasts as long as both people are playing by the same rules. Colin knew I worked in tech. He knew I was good at my job. But I never told him exactly how much I made. Not because I was hiding it, but because it never came up. We had separate bank accounts. His idea, actually. He said it was healthier, gave us both independence. I agreed because I'm not the controlling type, and honestly, I liked having my own money. I'd grown up watching my mother hand over every paycheck to my father, watching her beg for grocery money while he bought himself new golf clubs. I swore I'd never be that woman. So I kept my finances private. I paid my half of the bills, contributed to our joint savings, and kept the rest in my own account. I didn't think it was a big deal. Until the envelope. It was a Tuesday evening in late March. I'd just gotten home from work, still wearing my blazer, my laptop bag slung over my shoulder. The house smelled like garlic and onions. Colin was cooking, which was rare. He usually ordered takeout or waited for me to throw something together. "Hey, babe," I called out, dropping my bag by the door and kicking off my heels. "Hey," he called back from the kitchen, his voice tight. I didn't think much of it. Colin had been weird lately, distant, moody, snapping at me over little things. I figured it was work stress. His company had been doing layoffs, and I knew he was worried about his job security. I walked into the kitchen, and that's when I saw it. The envelope. It was sitting on the counter, right next to the cutting board where Colin was chopping bell peppers with way more force than necessary. The envelope was white, official-looking, with the logo of my company's payroll processor in the top corner. My stomach dropped. "What's that?" I asked, even though I already knew. Colin didn't look at me. He just kept chopping, the knife thudding against the cutting board in sharp, angry rhythms. "Why don't you tell me, Elena?" His voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that comes right before an explosion. I reached for the envelope, my hands trembling. It was my pay stub. A physical copy I'd requested a few weeks ago for a mortgage pre-approval application we'd been working on. I'd completely forgotten about it. "Colin, I can explain." "Explain what?" He finally looked at me, and the expression on his face made my blood run cold. It wasn't anger. It was something worse. Resentment. Explain why you've been making six figures for the past 3 years and never said a word. Explain why I've been busting my ass trying to make 50 grand a year while you've been sitting on 140,000 like it's nothing. I wasn't hiding it. Bullshit. He slammed the knife down on the counter, and I flinched. You've been lying to me, Elena. Every single day. Every time we talked about money, every time I stressed about making rent, every time I said we couldn't afford a vacation, you just sat there and let me believe we were struggling. Meanwhile, you're out here making more than twice what I make. That's not fair, I said, my voice shaking. I never lied. You never asked. I shouldn't have to ask. We're married. Married people don't keep secrets like this. You're the one who wanted separate accounts. I shot back, my own anger rising now. You're the one who said it was healthier to keep our finances independent. So don't stand there and act like I committed some crime by not disclosing my salary to you. Colin stared at me, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscles twitching. For a moment, I thought he might actually hit me. He didn't. But what he said next was worse. You know what? You're just like your mother. Cold. Selfish. Thinks money makes you better than everyone else. That one landed like a punch to the gut. My mother and I had a complicated relationship, sure, but she wasn't cold. She was broken. Beaten down by years of financial abuse from my father. And now Colin was using her as a weapon against me. I didn't say anything. I just grabbed my laptop bag, walked out of the kitchen, and locked myself in the guest bedroom. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying the fight over and over in my mind. Part of me felt guilty. Maybe I should have told him. Maybe I should have been more open. But the other part of me, the part that had fought so hard to build a career, to earn respect, to never be dependent on a man, that part was furious. Because this wasn't about honesty. This was about control. Colin didn't care that I made more money. He cared that he didn't have access to it. And I was about to find out just how far he'd go to change that. The next morning, Colin apologized. Sort of. He said he'd overreacted, that he was stressed about work, that he didn't mean what he said about my mother. He made me coffee, kissed my forehead, told me we'd figure it out. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But something had shifted. I could see it in his eyes. The way he looked at me now wasn't the way he used to. It wasn't love. It wasn't even anger. It was calculation. And that scared me more than anything. Over the next 2 weeks, Colin became a different person. At first, I thought maybe we were moving past it. He was nicer. Attentive. Even. He'd bring me breakfast in bed on weekends, ask about my day, suggest we go out for dinner at places we used to love. It felt like he was trying to rebuild what we'd lost in that fight. But I'm not stupid. I've spent years in corporate environments reading between the lines, picking up on subtext, sensing when someone's playing an angle. And Colin? He was playing an angle. The first red flag came on a Saturday morning. I was in the shower when I heard his voice through the bathroom door, low and urgent. At first, I thought he was on a work call, but then I heard my name. I'm telling you, she's been hiding it. Yeah, for years. No, she never said a word. I had no idea. I turned off the water, my heart pounding. I wrapped a towel around myself and pressed my ear to the door. She makes almost 3 times what I do, man. 3 times. And she just kept it to herself. Like I'm some kind of charity case. There was a pause. No, I haven't asked her for anything yet. I'm trying to figure out the best way to approach it. I don't want to seem like I'm just after her money, you know. But you are, I thought, my stomach twisting into knots. All right, yeah, I'll keep you posted. Thanks, bro. I heard his footsteps retreat down the hallway, and I stood there, dripping wet, staring at my reflection in the fogged-up mirror. The woman looking back at me seemed like a stranger. How had I ended up here? How had I married someone who was already strategizing how to get his hands on my money? I didn't confront him. Not yet. I needed to know more. I needed to understand what I was dealing with. So I started paying attention. Really paying attention. Colin's behavior over the next few days confirmed my worst fears. He started dropping hints, casual, off-handed comments designed to feel innocent but loaded with expectation. You know, babe, I was thinking, since you're doing so well at work, maybe it's time we combined our finances. You know, like a real partnership. I saw this article about how couples who share bank accounts are happier. Makes sense, right? No secrets. My buddy Dave and his wife just bought a lake house. Must be nice to have that kind of money. I mean, we could do that too, if we pooled our resources. Every comment made my skin crawl. This wasn't about partnership. This was about access. He wanted control of my money, plain and simple. But I played along. I smiled. I nodded. I said things like, yeah, maybe we should talk about that, while privately transferring more of my savings into an account he didn't know existed. Because here's the thing about being a woman in tech. You learn to protect yourself. You learn to plan for contingencies. You learn that trust is a luxury you can't always afford. And then my brother got involved. I need to tell you about Tyler. Tyler Brennan. My younger brother by 4 years. The golden child. The one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes, even though he'd been a screw-up his entire life. Tyler dropped out of college after 1 semester, blew through a trust fund our grandmother left him on a failed cryptocurrency venture, and had been bouncing between our parents' couch and his girlfriend of the month's apartment for the past decade. He was 30 years old and had never held a job for longer than 6 months. But he was charming. God, was he charming. He had this way of making people feel like they were the most important person in the room, like he genuinely cared about their problems. It was all an act, of course. Tyler only cared about Tyler. But it was a convincing act. Colin and Tyler had always gotten along. Maybe a little too well. They'd go out for beers, watch football together, talk about business ideas that never went anywhere. I used to think it was nice that my husband and my brother were friends. Now I realize it was a weapon waiting to be used against me. The phone call came on a Wednesday evening. I was working late in my home office, prepping for a presentation, when I heard Colin's voice from the living room. He was on the phone, and he wasn't trying to be quiet. Dude, yes. I'm serious. She's been sitting on a fortune this whole time. I know, right? It's insane. No, she won't just give it to me. She's weird about money. Independent woman bullshit, you know. Yeah, exactly. That's where you come in. My fingers froze over my keyboard. If you talk to her, she might listen. She's got a soft spot for you. Always has. Just tell her you need help with something, rent, car payment, whatever. Make it sound desperate. Once she opens up her wallet for you, it'll be easier to get her to do the same for me. I'm not saying we split it, man. I'm saying this is a foot in the door. All right, yeah. Let's meet up tomorrow and figure out the details. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. My husband was conspiring with my brother to manipulate me out of my money. I sat there in the dark, the glow of my laptop screen the only light in the room, and I felt something inside me break. Not my heart, that had already cracked the night Colin compared me to my mother. This was something deeper. This was my ability to trust. My belief that people, even flawed people, had limits to how low they'd sink. I'd been wrong. They didn't. I didn't sleep that night either. I lay in bed next to Colin, listening to him snore, and I thought about all the ways I could handle this. I could confront him. I could file for divorce. I could cut Tyler out of my life and never look back. But none of those options felt like enough. They'd tried to use me. They'd plotted against me. They'd treated me like an ATM with a vulnerability to exploit. And I wasn't going to let that stand. If they wanted to play games, fine. I'd play. But I'd play to win. The next day, Tyler called me. Right on schedule. Hey, sis, he said, his voice dripping with fake warmth. How's it going? I feel like we haven't talked in forever. Hey, Ty, I said, keeping my tone light. Yeah, it's been a minute. What's up? So, I hate to do this, but I'm in a bit of a bind. My landlord's threatening to evict me if I don't come up with rent by Friday, and I'm short about $800. I know it's a lot to ask, but… Say no more, I interrupted. I'll Venmo it to you today. There was a pause. He'd expected resistance. Really? I mean, are you sure? I don't want to put you out. Tyler, you're my brother. Of course I'm sure. Wow. Thanks, Elena. Seriously. You're a lifesaver. Anytime, I said, and I meant it. Because I wasn't just giving Tyler $800. I was buying information. And I was about to use it to burn their whole plan to the ground. I paid Tyler the $800 that same afternoon. He didn't need it. I knew he didn't need it. Tyler had been living rent-free at our parents' house for the past 3 months while his on-again, off-again girlfriend, Madison, let him crash at her apartment on weekends. But I sent the money anyway, with a cheerful little note attached. Asterisk, here you go. Let me know if you need anything else. Asterisk. Because I needed him to think it worked. I needed him to believe I was the soft, naive, big-hearted sister he could manipulate whenever he wanted. I needed Colin to think his plan was coming together. And while they celebrated their little victory, I'd be 3 steps ahead, building my own trap. If you've ever been in a situation where you realized the people you loved were working against you, you know this feeling I'm talking about. It's not sadness. It's not even anger. It's this cold, crystalline clarity. Like someone turned on a light in a dark room and suddenly you can see all the dust, all the dirt, all the things you were stepping around without realizing it. If that resonates with you, drop a like on this video and make sure you're subscribed, because this story is about to take some turns you won't see coming. And don't forget to check the description box for more stories like this one. The first thing I did was secure my assets. I'd been smart enough to keep most of my money in accounts Colin didn't have access to, but I wanted to make absolutely sure he couldn't touch a dime. I opened a new savings account at a completely different bank, one he'd never heard of, and transferred the bulk of my savings there. Then I called my financial advisor, a sharp woman named Carmen who'd helped me navigate investments and retirement planning for years. I need to make sure my accounts are airtight, I told her over the phone. No joint access. No beneficiaries except me. Can you walk me through what I need to do? Carmen didn't ask questions. She'd been in the business long enough to recognize the tone of a woman protecting herself. Within 2 days, every account was locked down. I even changed the passwords on my retirement funds and set up 2-factor authentication on everything. Colin couldn't get to my money if he tried. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The second thing I did was document everything. I'm a software architect. I know data. I know evidence. And I know how to build a case. I started keeping a detailed log of every conversation, every transaction, every suspicious behavior. I set up a hidden app on my phone that recorded audio whenever Colin and I were in the same room. Texas is a one-party consent state, which meant I didn't need his permission to record our conversations as long as I was part of them. I backed up every text message, every Venmo transaction, every email. And then I did something Colin would never expect. I hired a private investigator. Her name was Rachel Ortega, and she came highly recommended by a colleague who'd used her services during her own messy divorce. Rachel was in her mid-40s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. We met at a coffee shop in South Austin, and I laid out everything: Colin's discovery of my income, his conversations with Tyler, the $800 rent payment. You think they're planning something bigger, Rachel said. It wasn't a question. I know they are, I replied. I just don't know what yet. Give me 2 weeks, Rachel said. I'll find out. And she did. Rachel's report came back faster than I expected, 10 days instead of 2 weeks. We met at the same coffee shop, and she slid a folder across the table. "You were right to be suspicious," she said. I opened the folder. Inside were photos, transcripts of text messages, bank statements. My stomach turned as I flipped through the pages. Colin and Tyler had been meeting regularly, at bars, at Tyler's girlfriend's apartment, even at my parents' house when I wasn't around. They'd been planning this for weeks, maybe longer. The goal was simple: get me to open up financially, start giving the money for emergencies or investments, and slowly bleed me dry. But it was worse than that. According to the messages Rachel had uncovered, Tyler had already started bragging to friends about how he was going to get his rich sister to bankroll a business idea, some vague tech startup that didn't even have a name yet. He'd promised Colin a cut if he could soften Elena up. And Colin had been complaining to his buddies that I was selfish and controlling because I wouldn't give him access to my accounts. He'd even floated the idea of divorcing me and going after my assets in court. Community property state, one of his friends had texted back. "You'd get half of everything earned during the marriage." Colin's response made my blood boil. "That's the plan." I closed the folder and looked at Rachel. "What do I do?" "Legally, you protect yourself. Get a divorce attorney. File first. Make sure you've got everything documented." But she hesitated. "Off the record? If it were me, I'd make them regret ever thinking they could play me." I liked Rachel. I took her advice. Both parts. The next day, I met with a divorce attorney named Greg Callahan. He was older, early 60s, with a reputation for being ruthless in court. I walked him through everything: the pay stub, the phone calls, Tyler's involvement, the private investigator's findings. "You've got a strong case," Greg said. "Texas is a no-fault state, so the affair or fraud angle doesn't matter as much as asset protection. But the fact that you kept your income separate and he's been conspiring to access it, that works in your favor. We can argue that his actions demonstrate financial misconduct and a lack of good faith in the marriage." "How long will it take?" I asked. "Depends on how cooperative he is. Could be 6 months. Could be a year. But with this kind of documentation, he won't get much." "I don't want him to get anything," I said. Greg smiled. "Let's see what we can do." But filing for divorce wasn't enough. Not for me. Because Colin and Tyler didn't just want my money, they wanted to humiliate me. They wanted me to feel small, powerless, dependent. I wanted them to feel the same. So I started playing my own game. I began dropping hints to Colin that I was coming around to the idea of combining finances. I'd bring it up casually over dinner, say things like, "You know, maybe you were right. Maybe we should be more transparent with each other." His eyes would light up every time. It was disgusting. I also started being extra generous with Tyler. Another 500 here, 1,000 there. Always with some excuse: car repairs, medical bills, helping him pay off a credit card. He ate it up. So did Colin. They thought they were winning. They had no idea they were walking straight into a trap. Because here's what they didn't know: every dollar I gave Tyler, I documented. Every conversation where they pressured me, I recorded. Every lie they told, I catalogued. I was building a case. Not just for the divorce. For something bigger. And when the time came, I was going to make sure everyone knew exactly who they were dealing with. But first, I had to let them make their move. I had to let them think they'd won. Because the best revenge isn't getting even. It's making them destroy themselves. It happened on a Sunday afternoon in late April. I'd just gotten back from a morning run, one of the few things that kept me sane during those weeks of playing pretend, and I was in the kitchen making a smoothie when I heard the front door open. "Elena." Colin's voice echoed through the house. "You home?" "Yeah, in the kitchen," I called back, keeping my tone light. I heard footsteps. Plural. My stomach tightened. Colin appeared in the doorway, and behind him, like a shadow I couldn't shake, was Tyler. My brother looked nervous. Good. He should be. Colin, on the other hand, looked confident. Smug, even. He had that same expression I'd seen on the faces of mansplainers in conference rooms, the kind of guys who think they're the smartest person in any space they occupy. Hey, I said, glancing between them. What's going on? I didn't know you were coming over, Ty. Tyler shrugged, shoving his hands in his pockets. Yeah, Colin thought it'd be good if we all talked. You know. About stuff. Stuff, I repeated, setting down my blender. That's specific. Colin stepped forward, and I noticed he was holding a folder. My heart rate kicked up, but I kept my face neutral. Elena, we need to have a conversation, Colin said, his voice taking on that authoritative tone he used when he thought he was in control. A real one. No more dancing around the issue. Okay, I said slowly. What issue? He set the folder on the counter and opened it. Inside were printed spreadsheets, my bank statements, my investment accounts, my retirement fund balances. I felt a flash of rage so hot it almost blinded me. Where did you get those? Does it matter? Colin shot back. The point is, I know everything now. I know exactly how much you have. And honestly, Elena, I'm disappointed. We're supposed to be partners, and you've been treating me like some kind of outsider. I looked at Tyler. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Did you help him with this? I asked, my voice deadly calm. Tyler shifted uncomfortably. Look, Elena, I just think. Answer the question. Did you help him access my private financial information? It's not like that, Tyler said quickly. I mentioned that you'd help me out with some money, and Colin started asking questions. And you gave him my account details. I finished for him. He's your husband, Tyler said defensively. He has a right to know. I laughed. It was a bitter, hollow sound. He's my husband, so he has a right to violate my privacy? Is that what you're saying? Don't twist this around, Colin snapped. You're the one who's been hiding things. You're the one who's been dishonest. All we're asking is that you be fair. Fair, I repeated. Okay. What does fair look like to you, Colin? He leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. I think we should combine our finances. Completely. Joint accounts. Joint investments. No more secrets. And if I don't want to do that? His expression hardened. Then I think we need to seriously reconsider this marriage. There it was. The threat. The ultimatum. I looked at Tyler. And what's your role in this little intervention, Ty? Are you here to back him up? Make me feel guilty for not funding your lifestyle? That's not fair, Tyler said, but his voice lacked conviction. Fair. I said, my voice rising now. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been you getting a job instead of mooching off mom and dad for the past decade. Fair would have been you not blowing through grandma's trust fund on a scam. Fair would have been you being an actual brother instead of a leech. Elena, Colin started, but I cut him off. And you. I turned to face him fully. Fair would have been you being honest about why you wanted separate accounts in the first place. Because it wasn't about independence. It was about control. You wanted to make sure I couldn't see how much you were spending, how much debt you were racking up, how little you were actually contributing. Colin's jaw tightened. That's not true. Isn't it? I reached into my own bag and pulled out my phone. I opened the folder Rachel had sent me, the one with all his credit card statements, the bar tabs, the sports betting losses. You've spent over $30,000 in the past 2 years on stuff you never told me about. 30,000, Colin. And now you have the audacity to stand in my kitchen and call me dishonest. His face went pale. Where did you? Where I got it doesn't matter, I said, echoing his earlier words. The point is, I know everything now. So let's talk about what's really happening here. This isn't about fairness. This isn't about partnership. This is about you finding out I make more money than you and deciding you're entitled to it. Tyler stepped forward. Elena, come on. We're family. We're just trying to. You're trying to manipulate me, I said, my voice cold. Both of you. And honestly, I'm done. Colin straightened up, his eyes narrowing. Done with what? With this. With you. With playing along. What are you saying? Colin asked, and for the first time, I heard a hint of fear in his voice. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I'm saying I know about your plan. I know you've been meeting with Tyler, plotting how to get access to my money. I know you've been trash-talking me to your friends. I know you've been researching divorce law to figure out how much you can take from me. The color drained from Colin's face. Tyler looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. I have recordings, I continued. Text messages. Bank statements. A full report from a private investigator. And I've already filed for divorce. You'll be served papers tomorrow. You can't do that, Colin said, but his voice was shaky now. I already did. And here's the best part. Because we kept our finances separate, because I can prove you've been acting in bad faith, because you violated my privacy by accessing my accounts without permission, you're not getting a dime. Colin's face twisted into something ugly. You bitch. You think you're so much better than me, don't you? You think your money makes you special. No, I said calmly. I think my hard work makes me special. I think the fact that I built a career while you coasted makes me special. And I think the fact that I'm not a lying, manipulative piece of garbage makes me better than you. Tyler finally found his voice. Elena, this is crazy. You're overreacting. I turned to him, and whatever he saw in my eyes made him take a step back. Get out, I said quietly. Elena. Get out. Colin grabbed Tyler's arm. Come on. Let's go. They headed for the door, but Colin stopped in the doorway, turning back to glare at me. This isn't over. Yes, I said. It is. The door slammed behind them, and I stood there in my kitchen, my hands shaking, my heart pounding, feeling like I'd just run a marathon. But I'd done it. I'd faced them. I'd called them out. I'd taken control. And it felt incredible. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, a nice Malbec I'd been saving, and sat on my back porch, looking out at the Austin skyline. The city lights twinkled in the distance, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. But I wasn't naive. I knew this wasn't over. Not really. Colin was angry, humiliated. Tyler was desperate. Men like that don't just walk away. They retaliate. And I needed to be ready. Because what I didn't tell them, what they didn't know, was that I'd only shown them a fraction of what I had on them. The real evidence, the stuff that would destroy them, was still locked away. And I was saving it for the right moment. They didn't wait long to strike back. 2 days after I kicked them out of my house, my phone started blowing up. Text messages from family members. Missed calls from friends. Voicemails from people I hadn't spoken to in years. At first, I ignored them. I was busy meeting with my attorney, organizing my finances, trying to keep my head above water while also showing up to work and pretending everything was fine. But the messages kept coming, more insistent each time. Finally, I listened to one of the voicemails. It was from my cousin Jessica, my mom's sister's daughter, someone I'd always gotten along with but wasn't particularly close to. Elena, hey, it's Jess. I don't even know what to say. Tyler told us what's been going on, and I'm really shocked. I always thought you were the responsible one, you know? I can't believe you'd cut off your own brother like that. His family. Anyway, call me when you get a chance. I think we all need to talk. My stomach dropped. I scrolled through the other messages. They were all variations of the same theme. Asterisk, is it true you refused to help Tyler when he was about to be homeless? Asterisk. Asterisk, I heard you're divorcing Colin because he found out how much money you've been hiding. Asterisk. Asterisk, your mom is really hurt, Elena. She thought you were better than this. Asterisk. Asterisk, money changes people, I guess. Asterisk. They'd spun a narrative. They'd gotten to my family first, painted me as the villain, and now everyone believed I was some cold, heartless monster who cared more about money than her own brother. I felt sick. I called my mother. She answered on the third ring. Elena. Her voice was cool. Disappointed. Mom, I need to talk to you about. I already know, she interrupted. Tyler told me everything. How you've been flaunting your money, refusing to help him when he's struggling, treating Colin like he's beneath you. I raised you better than this. That's not what happened, I said, my voice tight. They're lying to you. Why would Tyler lie? He's your brother. Because he's trying to manipulate you, I said, louder now. He and Colin have been conspiring to get access to my money. I have proof, Mom. Recordings. Messages. I don't want to hear it, my mother said sharply. I'm tired of you always thinking you're smarter than everyone else. You got a fancy job and suddenly you think you're too good for your family. Well, newsflash, Elena, money doesn't make you better than us. I never said it did. I need to go. Your father and I are having dinner with Tyler tonight. He's been really upset about all this, and he needs support. Mom, please. She hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, feeling like the ground had been ripped out from under me. My own mother had chosen Tyler's side without even hearing mine. And that's when I realized the full scope of what Colin and Tyler had done. They hadn't just tried to take my money. They tried to take my reputation, my relationships, my family. They tried to isolate me. If you've ever been in a situation where people you love turned against you because of lies someone else told, you know how devastating it is. It's not just betrayal, it's disorientation. Like someone swapped out your entire reality while you weren't looking. If this is hitting home for you, please leave a comment below. I need to know I'm not alone in this. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, because what I did next, let's just say I stopped playing defense and went straight for their throats. Check the description box for more stories like this. The calls kept coming for days. Aunts, uncles, old family friends, everyone had an opinion about what a terrible person I was. Some were gentle about it, trying to understand my perspective while clearly already having decided I was in the wrong. Others were outright hostile. My father left me a voicemail that I had to listen to 3 times before I could even process it. Elena, I don't know what's gotten into you. Your mother is heartbroken. Tyler is your brother, your blood, and you're treating him like garbage because you think you're some big shot now. I expected better from you. You need to apologize to him, and to Colin. And you need to do it soon, before you destroy this family completely. I saved that voicemail. Added it to my growing collection of evidence. Because here's what they didn't understand. Every attack, every lie, every attempt to turn people against me, it was all just more ammunition. I called Rachel, my private investigator. They're running a smear campaign, I told her. They've convinced my entire family that I'm the villain. Expected, Rachel said calmly. When people get caught, they deflect. Make themselves the victim. You need to counter it, but strategically. Don't go on the defensive. That makes you look guilty. Instead, let them keep digging their hole while you document everything. How? Every message you get, every call, every accusation, save it. Screenshot it. Back it up. And when the time is right, you release everything at once. The recordings, the text messages, the financial records. You don't just prove them wrong. You obliterate their credibility. When is the right time? I asked. When they make their biggest move, Rachel said. And trust me, they will. Men like Colin and Tyler? They won't stop until they've either won or destroyed themselves trying. She was right. The next escalation came a week later, and it was worse than I could have imagined. I was at work, in the middle of a meeting with my team about a major product launch, when my phone buzzed. It was an email from HR. Asterisk subject, meeting request, urgent asterisk. My blood went cold. I excused myself from the meeting and went to my office, closing the door. I opened the email. Asterisk Elena, we need to meet with you this afternoon at 3 p.m. regarding some concerns that have been brought to our attention. Please bring any relevant documentation related to your employment and personal conduct. This meeting is mandatory. Asterisk. Asterisk, Barbara Chen, Director of Human Resources. Asterisk. My hands were shaking as I typed out a response confirming I'd be there. What concerns? What documentation? What the hell was going on? I called Greg, my divorce attorney. They're going after my job, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. What happened? I told him about the email. This is Colin. It has to be. He's trying to ruin my career. Can he do that? Greg asked. I don't know. Depends on what he told them. If he made up something serious enough, harassment, misconduct, fraud, they'd have to investigate. Do you have any vulnerabilities? Greg asked. Anything he could use against you? I thought hard. No. I've been clean. I've followed every policy, every protocol. I've never even had a negative performance review. Then you'll be fine, Greg said. Go to the meeting. Listen to what they have to say. Don't admit to anything. Don't get defensive. Just present the facts. Okay, I said, but I didn't feel okay. I felt like I was drowning. At 3 o'clock, I walked into Barbara Chen's office. She was there with another HR representative, a younger man named David, and our company's legal counsel, a woman named Patricia Hoffman. The fact that legal was in the room told me this was serious. Elena, thank you for coming, Barbara said, gesturing to an empty chair. Please, sit down. I sat, folding my hands in my lap to keep them from shaking. We received a complaint about you, Barbara began. From your spouse. Of course. The complaint alleges that you've been engaging in financial misconduct, specifically, that you've been using company resources for personal gain, and that you've been dishonest about your income in order to evade tax obligations. I felt like I'd been slapped. That's completely false, I said, keeping my voice steady. I have never misused company resources, and all of my income has been properly reported and taxed. This is a personal vendetta from my soon-to-be ex-husband, who is upset that I filed for divorce. Patricia leaned forward. Can you provide documentation to support that? Absolutely, I said. I can provide tax returns, bank statements, performance reviews, anything you need. I have nothing to hide. Barbara exchanged a glance with Patricia. We'll need to conduct a formal investigation. In the meantime, you'll be placed on paid administrative leave. My heart sank. For how long? Until the investigation is complete. Typically 2 to 4 weeks. 2 to 4 weeks of my professional reputation being dragged through the mud. 2 to 4 weeks of my colleagues whispering about what I might have done. 2 to 4 weeks of Colin winning. I understand, I said, because what else could I say? I walked out of that office feeling numb. I packed up my desk, temporarily, they said, but it felt permanent, and drove home in a daze. When I got home, there was a note taped to my front door. Asterisk, you should have just given me the money. Now you're going to lose everything. See asterisk. I ripped the note down, my hands trembling with rage. That's when I knew, this wasn't about money anymore. This was about power. About control. About making me pay for daring to stand up to him. And I was done playing nice. I called Rachel. I need everything you have on Colin. Everything. I don't care how bad it is. I need it now. You sure you're ready for this? Rachel asked. I'm sure. All right. I'll send it over tonight. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with a glass of wine and Rachel's report spread out in front of me. It was worse than I thought. Colin hadn't just been conspiring with Tyler. He'd been lying to me for years. The work stress he'd been complaining about? He'd been fired from his job 8 months ago and hadn't told me. He'd been pretending to go to work every day, spending his time at bars and sports betting sites, racking up debt. He owed over $60,000 to various creditors. Credit cards, personal loans, even a bookie. And he'd been planning to use my money to pay it all off. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the affair. Rachel had uncovered messages between Colin and a woman named Brittany, his ex-girlfriend from college. They'd reconnected about a year ago, and according to the texts, they'd been sleeping together ever since. Brittany knew Colin was married. She didn't care. In fact, some of her messages explicitly referenced me. Asterisk, when are you going to leave her? I'm tired of being your secret. Asterisk. Asterisk, just take half her money and come be with me. You deserve better than some uptight tech nerd. Asterisk. Colin's responses made me want to vomit. Asterisk soon, baby. I promise. I'm working on it. Asterisk. I sat there, staring at those messages, and I felt something inside me crystallize into cold, hard resolve. Colin wanted to destroy me. Fine. I'd destroy him first. I forwarded everything to Greg. I want to use this in the divorce. All of it. This changes things, Greg said when he called me back. Infidelity, fraud, financial misconduct. We can argue that he's been acting in bad faith from the beginning. We can go after him for damages. Do it, I said. And Elena, that complaint to your company, we can prove it was filed in retaliation. You might have grounds for a defamation suit. Even better, I said. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was back in control. But I wasn't done yet. Because Colin and Tyler had one more move to make. And when they did, I'd be ready. The investigation at work moved faster than I expected. Within a week, Barbara called me back for a follow-up meeting. This time, it was just her and Patricia, no David. Elena, Barbara began, we've completed our preliminary investigation, and I want to start by apologizing. The allegations made against you were completely unfounded. We've reviewed your financial records, your tax filings, your expense reports, everything checks out. You've done nothing wrong. The relief that washed over me was so intense I almost cried. Thank you. We take false accusations very seriously, Patricia added, especially when they appear to be motivated by personal grievances. We'll be documenting this incident, and if your ex-husband attempts to contact anyone at this company again, we'll be pursuing legal action against him for harassment. Can I come back to work? I asked. Immediately, Barbara said. And again, we're sorry this happened. Your reputation here is intact. I wanted to collapse. Instead, I shook their hands, thanked them, and walked out of that office with my head held high. One battle won. But the war was far from over. That weekend, I went to visit my parents. I hadn't spoken to them since my mother hung up on me, but I needed to try one more time to get through to them. I knocked on the door of their modest ranch house in Cedar Park, about 30 minutes north of Austin. My father answered, his expression guarded. Elena. Dad. Can we talk? He hesitated, then stepped aside to let me in. My mother was in the living room, sitting on the couch with a cup of tea. She didn't get up when she saw me. Mom. Dad. I need you to hear me out. Please. My father crossed his arms. Make it quick. Tyler's coming over for dinner. Of course he was. I took a deep breath. Everything Tyler and Colin told you is a lie. They didn't come to me for help. They conspired to manipulate me into giving them access to my money. I have proof, recordings, text messages, financial records. Colin has been lying to me about his job, his debt, his affair. Tyler has been using me as a personal ATM for years. And when I finally stood up for myself, they launched a smear campaign to turn you all against me. My mother's expression didn't change. That's a very serious accusation. Because it's true, I said, my voice rising. Mom, Colin filed a false complaint with my employer to try to get me fired. He left a threatening note on my door. He's been meeting with Tyler to plan how to extort money from me. This isn't about me being selfish or cold. This is about them trying to use me, and when that didn't work, trying to destroy me. Do you have this so-called proof with you? My father asked. Yes. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder with the recordings and screenshots. Here. Listen. I played them the recording of Colin and Tyler's phone conversation, the one where they explicitly discussed manipulating me. I showed them the text messages between Colin and Brittany. I showed them Tyler's Venmo requests with the fake sob stories. My father's face went pale. My mother's hands tightened around her teacup. When I finished, there was a long silence. I don't know what to say, my father finally said. Say you believe me, I pleaded. Say you're on my side. My mother set down her teacup. Elena, even if all of this is true, and I'm not saying it is, Tyler is still your brother. Family forgives. Family works things out. You don't just cut people off. I stared at her, incredulous. Did you not just hear what I played for you? They tried to ruin my life. And you're trying to ruin theirs, my mother shot back. You're vindictive, Elena. You always have been. You hold grudges. You can't just let things go. Something inside me snapped. You're right, I said quietly. I can't let this go. Because letting things go is how you ended up spending 30 years with a man who controlled every dollar you earned. Letting things go is how you taught me that being quiet and accommodating was more important than standing up for myself. Well, I'm done being that person. I'm done letting people walk all over me because they're family. My father's jaw tightened. Watch your tone. Or what? I asked, my voice cold. You'll disown me? Go ahead. Tyler already has. I turned and walked out of that house, and I didn't look back. I cried the whole drive home. Not because I regretted what I said, but because I realized I'd lost them. My parents had chosen Tyler. They'd probably always choose Tyler. And there was nothing I could do to change that. But I wasn't alone. I had friends, colleagues, people who actually valued me for who I was, not what I could give them. And I had Rachel and Greg, who were helping me fight back. That had to be enough. The confrontation I'd been waiting for came 3 days later. I was at home, working on my laptop. I'd returned to work, but I'd taken to doing a lot of my projects remotely to avoid the lingering awkwardness with some of my colleagues, when my doorbell rang. I glanced at my security camera feed on my phone. Colin. And Tyler. My pulse quickened, but I was ready. I opened the door, keeping the chain lock engaged. What do you want? Colin looked rough. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled clothes. Tyler looked nervous, shifting his weight from foot to foot. We need to talk, Colin said. We have nothing to talk about. You'll be hearing from my attorney. Elena, please, Tyler said. Just hear us out. Against my better judgment, I unlocked the chain and opened the door. But I kept my phone in my hand, recording. They walked into my living room, and I stayed by the door, arms crossed. This is your last chance, Colin said, his voice low and dangerous. You need to stop this divorce. You need to drop the complaints. And you need to give me what I'm owed. Owed? I repeated. You're not owed anything. I was your husband for 5 years, Colin said. I supported you. I was there for you. And now you're trying to cut me out like I'm nothing. You supported me. I laughed bitterly. Colin, you haven't had a job in 8 months. I've been paying all the bills, all the mortgage payments, all the utilities. You've contributed nothing. That's not true. It is true, and I have the bank statements to prove it. Colin's face twisted with rage. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you can just humiliate me and get away with it. I think I can protect myself from a liar and a cheater, I said evenly. That's when Tyler stepped forward. Elena, listen. We didn't come here to fight. We came here to work something out. If you give Colin $50,000, he'll agree to a clean divorce. No contest. No drama. You never hear from him again. I stared at my brother. You're actually asking me to pay him to leave? It's a good deal, Tyler said. You can afford it. And what do you get out of this, Ty? A finder's fee. Tyler had the decency to look ashamed. I shook my head. Get out. Both of you. Elena, Colin started. Get out, or I'm calling the police. Colin took a step toward me, and for a moment, I thought he might actually try to hurt me. But then he seemed to think better of it. You're going to regret this, he said. I already regret ever meeting you, I replied. They left, slamming the door behind them. I stood there, shaking, and then I sent the recording to Greg. His response came within minutes. This is gold. Extortion attempt on tape. We're filing a restraining order first thing tomorrow morning. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and I thought about everything that had happened. The lies, the betrayal, the manipulation, and I thought about what came next. Because they'd made their demand. And now it was time for me to make mine. The restraining order was granted within 48 hours. Colin wasn't allowed within 500 feet of me, my home, or my workplace. Neither was Tyler, since he'd been actively participating in the extortion attempt. The judge had listened to the recording, reviewed the evidence Greg presented, and called their behavior reprehensible and potentially criminal. It felt like a victory. But I knew it wasn't enough. Because Colin and Tyler weren't just trying to get money from me anymore. They were trying to destroy my reputation, my relationships, my entire life. And as long as my family believed their lies, as long as people thought I was the villain in this story, they'd won something I couldn't get back. So I did what any self-respecting woman in tech would do. I built a presentation. Not for a product launch or a client pitch. For my family. I spent an entire weekend compiling everything. The recordings of Colin and Tyler's phone conversations. Screenshots of text messages between Colin and Brittany. Bank statements showing Colin's secret debt and lack of contributions to our household. Tyler's Venmo requests with the fabricated emergencies. The timeline of their smear campaign. The threatening note Colin left on my door. The recording of their extortion attempt. I organized it all into a clean, professional slide deck with timestamps, sources, and context. I made it irrefutable. And then I invited my entire extended family to a Sunday brunch at a restaurant in downtown Austin. The invitation was simple. I need to share something important with all of you. Please come. This is about setting the record straight. To my surprise, most of them showed up. My parents, my Aunt Linda and Uncle Marcus, my cousins Jessica, Brandon, and Amy. Even my grandmother, my dad's mother, who was 83 and rarely left her assisted living facility. Tyler wasn't there, obviously. I hadn't invited him. But I knew word would get back to him. We gathered in a private dining room. I'd ordered a full spread, breakfast tacos, fresh fruit, pastries, coffee. I wanted people comfortable. Federation. Open. When everyone had settled in, I stood at the head of the table. Thank you all for coming, I began. I know the past few weeks have been confusing, and I know you've heard a lot of things about me. Some of you have reached out with concern. Some of you have been angry. I understand. But I need you to hear my side of the story. Not just my words. I need you to see the evidence. I set up my laptop and connected it to a portable projector I'd brought. The first slide appeared on the wall, asterisk the truth about Colin and Tyler. Asterisk. For the next 45 minutes, I walked them through everything. I played the recording of Colin and Tyler planning how to manipulate me. Several people gasped. I showed the texts between Colin and his mistress. My Aunt Linda's hand flew to her mouth. I displayed the bank statements showing Colin's debt and lack of financial contribution. My father's face went red. I showed Tyler's Venmo history, all the fake emergencies he claimed, juxtaposed with social media posts of him at bars and concerts during those same time periods. I played the recording of their extortion attempt. My grandmother muttered, "Lord have mercy." When I finished, the room was silent. Finally, my cousin Jessica spoke. "Elena, I had no idea. Tyler told us you'd cut him off for no reason. He made it sound like you were being cruel." "He lied," I said simply. "They both did. And I have the proof." My Uncle Marcus cleared his throat. "Have you shown this to your parents?" "I tried," I said, looking at my mother and father. "They didn't want to hear it." My mother's face was pale. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. "So what now?" Brandon asked. "What are you going to do?" "I'm getting divorced," I said. "The restraining order is already in place. As for Tyler..." I hesitated. "He's my brother. Part of me wants to forgive him, wants to believe he can change. But I can't have someone in my life who sees me as a resource to exploit. So until he's willing to genuinely apologize and make amends, real amends, not just words, I'm done." My grandmother spoke up, her voice shaky but firm. "You're doing the right thing, honey. I'm proud of you." Those words, from her, meant more than I could express. After brunch, several family members came up to hug me, to apologize for believing the lies. Jessica was in tears. "I'm so sorry, Elena. I should have listened to you." "It's okay," I said, even though it wasn't. "Not really. But it was a start. My parents left without saying goodbye. That hurt. But I'd expected it. What I didn't expect was the text message I got from my mother later that night. Asterisk, I need time to process all of this. But I believe you. I'm sorry I didn't before. Asterisk. It wasn't much. But it was something." The fallout from the brunch presentation was swift and widespread. Within days, word had spread through the family network. Tyler started getting calls from relatives demanding explanations. Colin's friends began distancing themselves once they learned about the affair and the financial fraud. And then something unexpected happened. Brittany, Colin's mistress, reached out to me. Her message came through Facebook, of all places. Asterisk, "Elena, I know you have no reason to believe me or listen to me, but I need to tell you something. Colin lied to me too. He told me you guys were separated, that you were keeping his money from him, that you were emotionally abusive. I had no idea he was still living with you, still pretending to be a devoted husband. I feel sick about what I did, and I'm sorry. You deserve to know that he's been manipulating both of us." Asterisk. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to block her and move on. But another part of me, the part that had been lied to and gaslit for months, wanted answers. I wrote back. Asterisk, "Did he ever tell you how he planned to get money from me?" Asterisk. Her response came quickly. Asterisk, "Yes. He said once the divorce went through, he'd get half of everything you had. He said he'd calculated it all out, that he was entitled to at least $300,000 based on your assets. He was already making plans for what he'd do with it." Asterisk. $300,000. That's what he thought he'd walk away with. That's what he thought I was worth to him. I forwarded Brittany's messages to Greg. Asterisk, "More evidence of intent to defraud." Asterisk, he wrote back. Asterisk, "This keeps getting better for our case." Asterisk. The divorce proceedings began in earnest. Colin fought it at first, tried to argue that we should split assets 50-50, claimed he contributed more to the marriage than the record showed, even tried to say I'd been financially abusive by keeping my income private. But Greg dismantled every argument. We had the bank statements, the recordings, the text messages, the evidence of infidelity, fraud, and extortion. In the end, Colin's attorney advised him to settle. He got nothing. No alimony. No share of my retirement accounts. No claim to the house. Nothing. Just the debt he'd racked up, which was his alone to deal with. The judge signed the papers on a Thursday morning in July. I walked out of that courthouse a free woman. That night, I went out with a few close friends, real friends, people who'd stood by me through the whole nightmare, and we celebrated. Not because I was happy about how things had ended, but because I'd survived. To Elena, my friend Simone said, raising her glass. The strongest woman I know. To bad husbands getting what they deserve, added my friend Marcus, grinning. We laughed. We drank. We danced. And for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. But there was still one loose end I needed to tie up. Tyler. Because while Colin was out of my life for good, Tyler was still family. And despite everything he'd done, despite the lies and the manipulation and the betrayal, part of me couldn't let go of the hope that maybe, just maybe, he could change. So I sent him a text. Asterisk, we need to talk. Just you and me. One conversation. After that, I'm done trying. Asterisk. He responded an hour later. Asterisk, okay. When? Asterisk. Asterisk, tomorrow. 2 p.m. Starbucks on Lamar. Asterisk. Asterisk, I'll be there. Asterisk. I had no idea what I was going to say to him. But I knew it was time to face him one last time. And this time, I'd be the one setting the terms. Tyler was already there when I arrived at the Starbucks, sitting at a corner table with a venti iced coffee in front of him. He looked thinner than the last time I'd seen him, his face gaunt, shadows under his eyes. Good. I ordered a black coffee and sat down across from him. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Thanks for meeting me, Tyler finally said, his voice quiet. I didn't respond. I just looked at him, waiting. He fidgeted with his cup. I've been doing a lot of thinking since everything. And I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. You conspired with my husband to extort money from me, I said flatly. That's not messing up, Tyler. That's betrayal. I know. He looked down at his hands. I was desperate. I'd racked up debt, lost another job, and Colin, he made it sound so easy. Like you had so much money that you wouldn't even miss it. Like we were doing you a favor by helping you be more generous. Generous, I repeated, the word tasting bitter. Tyler, I've been generous with you your entire adult life. I've given you thousands of dollars. I've co-signed loans. I've let you stay at my house. I've covered your bills. And you repaid me by treating me like an ATM and then trying to turn my own family against me when I finally said no. I know, he said again, his voice cracking. Elena, I'm so sorry. I was selfish and stupid, and I let Colin manipulate me into thinking. No, I interrupted. You don't get to blame Colin for this. Colin didn't make you lie to our parents. Colin didn't make you send me fake Venmo requests. Colin didn't make you show up at my house and demand money. You did those things. You chose to do those things. Tyler's eyes filled with tears. You're right. I did. And I don't know how to fix it. You can't fix it, I said. What's done is done. But you can own it. You can stop making excuses. You can get your life together, get a real job, pay back your debts, stop mooching off mom and dad. And you can leave me alone until you've actually done those things. Elena, please. You're my sister. I can't lose you. You already did, I said softly. The moment you decided I was worth more to you as a paycheck than as a person, you lost me. Tyler wiped at his eyes. What if I change? What if I actually get my act together? Then maybe, we can have a relationship again someday. But it'll take years, Tyler. Years of you proving that you're not the same person who betrayed me. And I'm not going to wait around hoping. I'm moving on with my life. He nodded slowly, tears streaming down his face. I understand. I stood up, leaving my coffee untouched. Goodbye, Tyler. Goodbye, Elena. I walked out of that Starbucks and didn't look back. It hurt. God, it hurt. Because despite everything, he was still my brother. I still remembered the kid who used to make me laugh, who'd shared a room with me growing up, who'd once been my best friend. But that kid was gone. Maybe he'd been gone for a long time, and I'd just been too blind to see it. Now I saw clearly. And seeing clearly meant accepting that some relationships can't be saved. Life moved forward. I threw myself into my work, taking on new projects, mentoring junior developers, even speaking at a few tech conferences. My reputation at the company was stronger than ever. If anything, the false complaint Colin had filed had backfired, making my colleagues more supportive and protective of me. I bought out Colin's half of the house through the divorce settlement, paid him what it was worth, even though he didn't deserve a cent, and made it fully mine. I repainted the walls, replaced the furniture, turned the guest bedroom into a home office. I erased every trace of him. I started therapy. Not because I thought I was broken, but because I wanted to process everything that had happened in a healthy way. My therapist, Dr. Kim, helped me work through the anger, the betrayal, the grief. You're allowed to grieve, she told me during one session. Even when someone hurts you, you're allowed to mourn what you've lost. So I did. I mourned the marriage I'd thought I had. The brother I'd thought I knew. The family I'd thought would always have my back. And slowly, piece by piece, I started to heal. I also started dating again, though I took it slow. After Colin, I wasn't in a hurry to jump into anything serious. But I went on a few dates, met some interesting people, reminded myself that not everyone was out to use me. One guy, Marcus, different Marcus from my friend group, was a civil engineer I'd met through a friend. He was kind, straightforward, and refreshingly honest about his finances. On our third date, he made a joke about how he'd probably never make as much as me, and I appreciated that he could acknowledge it without feeling threatened. I don't care how much you make, I told him. I care that you're honest. I can do honest, he said, smiling. We'll see where it goes. My relationship with my parents slowly, tentatively began to improve. My mother reached out a few months after the divorce was finalized, asking if we could have coffee. We met at a cafe near their house, and she apologized. Really apologized. I was wrong, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I chose Tyler because I've always chosen Tyler. He's always needed more help, more support, and I convinced myself that meant he deserved more. But I failed you, Elena. I didn't see how hard you've worked, how much you've accomplished on your own. I didn't see how much you were hurting. And I'm sorry. It wasn't enough to erase the pain. But it was a start. My father took longer to come around, but eventually, he did too. He called me one evening and said, simply, I'm proud of you. Those 4 words meant everything. As for Tyler, I kept my distance. I heard through the family grapevine that he'd finally gotten a job, a real one, managing inventory at a warehouse. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. He'd also started paying back some of his debts. Maybe he was changing. Maybe he wasn't. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. And Colin? I never heard from him again. Last I heard, he'd moved to Dallas and was working in sales again. Brittany had broken up with him once she realized he'd lied to her, too. Karma, I guess. One Saturday afternoon in October, about 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I was sitting on my back porch with a glass of wine, watching the sun set over Austin. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Asterisk, this is Tyler. I know you said you need space, and I'm respecting that. But I wanted you to know I got promoted at work today. It's small, but it's progress. I'm trying. I hope you're doing well. Asterisk. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed back, asterisk, congratulations. Keep going. Asterisk. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was acknowledgement. And maybe, someday, that would be enough to build something new. For now, though, I was content with where I was. Single. Strong. Free. I'd survived betrayal, manipulation, and heartbreak. And I'd come out the other side better for it. Because here's what I learned through all of this. You can't control what other people do to you. You can't stop them from lying, from betraying you, from trying to tear you down. But you can control how you respond. You can choose to protect yourself, to stand your ground, to fight back when necessary. You can choose to walk away from people who don't value you, even when it hurts. You can choose yourself. And that's exactly what I did. A year after the divorce, I found myself in a place I never expected to be, happy. Not the shallow, fleeting kind of happiness that comes from a good day or a nice meal. But the deep, settled kind. The kind that comes from knowing who you are and being okay with it. I'd rebuilt my life on my own terms. The house was fully mine, decorated in a minimalist style I actually loved instead of the compromise aesthetic Colin had insisted on. My career was thriving. I'd been promoted to lead architect, overseeing a team of 12 developers on a project that would revolutionize how our company handled data security. And I'd learned to trust again. Carefully. Selectively. But genuinely. Marcus, the civil engineer, had become a steady presence in my life. We'd been dating for about 8 months, taking things slow, building something real. He'd met my friends, I'd met his family, and there was an ease between us that I'd never had with Colin. No games. No hidden agendas. Just two adults being honest about what they wanted. I like that you don't need me, he told me once, lying next to me in bed. I like that you chose me because you wanted to, not because you had to. That's what healthy looked like, I realized. Partnership without dependence. Love without desperation. But the past had a way of creeping back in, even when you thought you'd moved on. It started with a phone call from my mother on a Tuesday evening in November. Elena, honey, I need to talk to you about something. I could hear the tension in her voice immediately. What's wrong? It's about Tyler. My stomach tightened. What about him? He's in trouble. Real trouble this time. I closed my eyes, already knowing I wasn't going to like what came next. Tell me. He got involved in some kind of investment scheme, cryptocurrency, I think. He put in money he didn't have, borrowed from some people he shouldn't have, and now they're threatening him. He owes them $30,000, Elena. And he doesn't have it. Mom, I can't. I'm not asking you to give him the money, she said quickly. I know that's not fair. But he's scared, Elena. Really scared. These people, they're not playing around. He showed me some of the messages they've been sending him. Threats. Pictures of our house. I'm worried about what they might do. I felt the old familiar weight settling back onto my shoulders. The weight of being the responsible one. The one everyone turned to when things fell apart. Has he gone to the police? He's afraid to. He thinks it'll make things worse. Of course he does, I muttered. Mom, I don't know what you want me to say. Tyler made his choices. He's 31 years old. At some point, he has to face the consequences of his actions. He's your brother. Her voice broke. Elena, please. I know what he did to you was unforgivable. I know you have every right to walk away. But if something happens to him, I don't know if I could live with myself. And there it was. The guilt. The manipulation. Not intentional, maybe, but effective nonetheless. I thought about the text Tyler had sent me months ago. The one about his promotion. The small signs that maybe he was trying to change. And I thought about the recordings. The lies. The betrayal. The extortion attempt. I thought about the year I'd spent rebuilding my life, learning to set boundaries, learning that I didn't owe anyone anything just because they were family. I'll look into it, I finally said. But I'm not making any promises. Thank you, honey. Thank you so much. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, staring at my phone. Then I called Rachel. I need your help with something, I said. Rachel had stayed in touch even after the divorce was finalized. We'd developed an odd friendship. She admired my resilience, and I appreciated her no-bullshit approach to problem-solving. What's going on? She asked. I told her about Tyler's situation. I need to know if this is real or if it's another scam. If these people are actually dangerous or if Tyler's exaggerating to get sympathy money. I'll dig into it, Rachel said. Give me a few days. 3 days later, we met at our usual coffee shop. Rachel's expression was grim. It's real, she said, sliding a folder across the table. Your brother got involved with some very bad people. Their investment opportunity was a front for a money laundering operation. Tyler didn't know that, at least, I don't think he did, but he borrowed heavily to buy in, and when the whole thing collapsed, he was left holding the bag. How bad is bad? The guys he owes money to, they have criminal records. Assault, extortion. One of them did time for armed robbery. These aren't people who take "I'll pay you back eventually" as an answer. My blood ran cold. What are Tyler's options? He needs to go to the police. Report the threats, the money laundering scheme, all of it. He might face some charges himself for his involvement, but it's better than getting beaten up or worse. And if he doesn't? Rachel met my eyes. Then he needs to come up with $30,000 very quickly. Or disappear. I drove to Tyler's apartment that same evening. He was living in a rundown complex on the east side, the kind of place with flickering lights in the hallways and the smell of old carpet and regret. He answered the door looking even worse than he had at the Starbucks months ago, pale, exhausted, frightened. Elena. He seemed shocked to see me. I didn't think you'd come. Can I come in? He stepped aside, and I entered a cramped studio apartment that was barely furnished. A futon, a TV on a cardboard box, clothes piled in one corner. This was what his life had become. Mom told me about your situation, I said, getting straight to the point. I did some research. Rachel confirmed it's real. Tyler's face crumpled. I'm so sorry. I know I have no right to ask you for anything after what I did, but Elena, I'm terrified. These guys, they know where I work. They know where Mom and Dad live. I don't know what to do. I looked at my brother, really looked at him, and saw not the manipulative schemer who'd conspired against me, but the scared kid I'd grown up with. The one who'd always been in over his head, always making bad decisions, always needing someone to pull him out. And I realized something. I didn't have to save him. But I could help him save himself. You have 2 choices, I said. You can go to the police, report everything, and face whatever consequences come from that. Or you can run, change your name, start over somewhere else. What you can't do is come to me looking for money to pay these people off. I wasn't going to ask you for money, Tyler said quietly. I know I've lost that right. Good. Because I'm not giving you any. But I will help you in another way. I pulled out my phone and showed him the contact information for a criminal defense attorney I'd researched, someone who specialized in cases involving fraud and extortion. His name is David Ortega. Rachel knows him, he's her cousin. He's good, and he's willing to take your case pro bono if you're willing to cooperate with law enforcement. You tell him everything. You report the threats. You testify against these guys if it comes to that. And you accept whatever consequences come your way. Tyler stared at the phone screen. And if I do this, what happens to me? I don't know, I said honestly. You might face charges. You might get probation, community service, maybe even jail time depending on how involved you were. But you'll be alive. And these people won't be able to hurt you or our family. What if I can't do it? His voice was barely a whisper. What if I'm too scared? Then that's your choice, I said. But Tyler, you've spent your whole life running from consequences. From responsibility. From reality. And look where it's gotten you. You're 31 years old, broke, scared, living in a studio apartment, owing money to criminals. At some point, you have to stop running. He was crying now, silent tears streaming down his face. I don't know how to be better, he said. I don't know how to be like you. You don't have to be like me, I said. You just have to be honest. Own your mistakes. Do the hard thing instead of the easy thing. That's where it starts. I left him with David Ortega's contact information and walked out of that apartment not knowing if I'd ever see my brother again. 2 weeks later, my mother called to tell me Tyler had gone to the police. He'd reported everything, the money laundering scheme, the threats, the people involved. He'd agreed to testify. And he'd been charged with a misdemeanor for his involvement, but the prosecutor had offered him a deal, probation and restitution instead of jail time, contingent on his cooperation. He's doing the right thing, my mother said, her voice thick with emotion. Because of you, Elena. Because you showed him there was another way. I just gave him information, Mom. He's the one who had to make the choice. Still. Thank you. A month after that, Tyler sent me a text. The case went to trial. They convicted 3 of the guys involved. I'm on probation for 2 years and I have to pay back some money, but I'm okay. I'm safe. And I'm getting help, therapy, financial counseling, all of it. I know I can't undo what I did to you. But I wanted you to know I'm trying. Really trying this time. I wrote back, I'm glad you're safe. Keep trying. And I meant it. Because here's what I'd learned over the past year and a half. Forgiveness isn't about the other person deserving it. It's about you deciding you don't want to carry the weight of anger and resentment anymore. I wasn't ready to have Tyler fully back in my life. Maybe I never would be. But I could acknowledge his efforts. I could hope he'd continue to grow. I could let go of some of the bitterness. Not for him. For me. That December, I hosted Christmas dinner at my house for the first time. My parents came. A few cousins. My grandmother. Marcus joined us, blending seamlessly into the chaos of my family. Tyler wasn't there. We'd agreed it was still too soon. But my mother showed me a picture he'd sent her, him at an AA meeting, 90 days sober, smiling. He's trying, she said again. I know, I replied. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. As I looked around my dining room that evening, at the people who'd stood by me, who'd learned to see me for who I really was, who valued me beyond what I could provide, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not because everything was perfect. My relationship with Tyler was still fractured. My trust in people was still guarded. The scars from Colin's betrayal still ached sometimes. But I'd survived. I'd fought back. I'd protected myself and come out stronger on the other side. And that was enough. If you've made it this far in my story, thank you for listening. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for witnessing what I went through and understanding that sometimes the people we love hurt us in ways we never see coming. If you've been betrayed, manipulated, or made to feel small by someone who was supposed to love you, I see you. I believe you. And I want you to know, you're stronger than you think. You deserve better. And you will survive this. Check the description box below for more stories like mine. Stories of resilience, revenge, and reclaiming your power. Because that's what this is really about. Not revenge. Not even justice. It's about reclaiming yourself. 2 years after my divorce from Colin, I found myself standing in front of a room full of women at a local empowerment conference. I never imagined I'd be here, sharing my story publicly, vulnerably, in front of strangers. But my therapist had suggested it, and a friend who organized community events had invited me to speak on a panel about financial abuse and recovery. "You have no idea how many women need to hear what you've been through," she'd said. "How you protected yourself, how you fought back, how you rebuilt. That's powerful, Elena." So here I was, microphone in hand, heart pounding, looking out at dozens of faces, young women, older women, women of all backgrounds who'd come to hear stories about surviving toxic relationships. "My name is Elena," I began, "and I want to tell you about the day I discovered my husband and brother were conspiring to steal from me." The room was silent, attentive. I told them everything. Not every detail. We only had 30 minutes, but the essential truth. How Colin had found my pay stub. How he'd recruited Tyler. How they'd launched a campaign to manipulate and isolate me. How I'd documented everything, fought back legally, and ultimately freed myself. When I finished, hands shot up immediately. "How did you stay strong when your own family turned against you?" one woman asked. "I didn't feel strong," I admitted. "I felt broken, betrayed, alone. But I realized something important. Strength isn't about never breaking. It's about deciding to put yourself back together, even when it's hard. Even when people tell you you're wrong for protecting yourself." Another hand. "What would you say to someone who's in a similar situation right now but feels trapped?" I took a breath. I'd say, document everything. Every conversation, every transaction, every threat or manipulation. Build your case quietly. Find people you can trust, a therapist, an attorney, a friend who sees the truth. And when you're ready, when you're safe, leave. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for them to change. Protect yourself first. "Do you regret giving your brother another chance?" someone else asked. That one made me pause. "No," I said finally. "But I did it on my terms. I didn't give him money. I didn't let him back into my life unconditionally. I gave him information and told him he had to save himself. And he did. That doesn't erase what he did to me, but it showed me that people can change, if they're willing to do the work. The key is, you can't do the work for them. You can't save people who don't want to be saved." After the panel, women lined up to talk to me. They shared their own stories. Husbands who'd drained their bank accounts, partners who'd sabotaged their careers, family members who'd exploited their generosity. "Thank you," one woman said, tears in her eyes. "I've been feeling so guilty for wanting to leave my husband. But hearing your story, I realize I'm not wrong for protecting myself." "You're not wrong," I told her. "You're smart. And you're brave. And you deserve better." That night, as I drove home, I thought about how far I'd come. I thought about the woman I'd been 3 years ago, hardworking, generous, but naive. I'd believed that love meant sacrifice. That family meant loyalty no matter what. That being the bigger person meant letting things go. I'd been wrong. Love shouldn't require you to sacrifice your dignity. Family shouldn't demand you tolerate abuse. Being the bigger person doesn't mean being a doormat. It means having the strength to walk away from people who diminish you. I'd learned those lessons the hard way. But I'd learned them. Marcus was waiting for me when I got home. We'd moved in together 6 months earlier, and it still felt surreal sometimes. This healthy, stable relationship where we talked about money openly, where we split responsibilities fairly, where neither of us felt threatened by the other's success. "How did it go?" he asked, pulling me into a hug. "Good," I said. "Really good, actually. Scary, but good." "I'm proud of you," he said, kissing my forehead. Those words, "I'm proud of you," they didn't carry the weight they once had with Colin. With Colin, pride had always been conditional, transactional. With Marcus, it was simple, genuine. That night, lying in bed, I thought about Colin and Tyler and what had become of them. Colin, as far as I knew, was still in Dallas. Still working in sales. Still single. I'd heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd tried dating but couldn't seem to maintain relationships. Apparently, he had a habit of getting angry when women made more money than him. Some people never learn. Tyler, on the other hand, had continued his trajectory of slow, steady improvement. He'd completed his probation. He'd stayed sober for over a year. He'd been promoted at his warehouse job and was even taking community college classes in business management. We still weren't close. We exchanged texts on birthdays and holidays, occasional updates about our lives. But there was a distance between us that might never fully close, and I'd made peace with that. Because here's the truth, you can forgive someone and still choose not to have them in your life. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean pretending the hurt never happened. It means releasing the hold that pain has on you so you can move forward. I'd forgiven Tyler. Not for him, for me. I'd even, in a strange way, forgiven Colin. Not because he deserved it, but because I refused to let him occupy space in my head anymore. He'd taken enough from me. I wasn't giving him any more of my energy. My relationship with my parents had fully healed. They'd learned to respect my boundaries, to see me as the competent, successful woman I'd become rather than just the daughter who was supposed to hold the family together. My mother, especially, had grown. She'd started seeing a therapist herself, working through her own issues around money and control stemming from her marriage to my father. She'd even started a small side business selling handmade jewelry online, finding a sense of independence she'd never had before. "You inspired me," she told me once. "Watching you stand up for yourself, it made me realize I could too." That meant more to me than she'd ever know. As for my career, it continued to flourish. I'd been headhunted by 2 larger tech companies but had chosen to stay where I was, leading projects I was passionate about, mentoring young women entering the field, advocating for pay transparency and equitable compensation. I'd even started a blog about financial literacy for women, sharing practical advice about protecting your assets, recognizing financial red flags in relationships, and building wealth independently. It had grown faster than I'd expected, with thousands of followers who shared their own stories and sought guidance. One post in particular had gone viral, * why you should never feel guilty for keeping your money separate. * In it, I'd written, * society teaches women that we should merge everything with our partners, our lives, our identities, our finances. But financial independence isn't about distrust. It's about self-preservation. It's about ensuring that if the worst happens, you're not left stranded. Separate accounts don't mean you don't love each other. They mean you love yourself enough to protect your future. * The comment section had exploded with women thanking me, sharing their own experiences, admitting they'd felt guilty for wanting financial autonomy. I'd started a movement, however small, and it felt good. 3 years after the divorce, I got an unexpected piece of closure. I received a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name and address written in handwriting I vaguely recognized. Inside was a single page, handwritten. *Elena*. I don't expect you to read this, and I definitely don't expect you to respond. But my therapist said I should write it anyway, so here goes. *I'm sorry. I'm sorry for lying to you. I'm sorry for betraying your trust. I'm sorry for trying to manipulate you and for recruiting Tyler to help me. I'm sorry for the false complaint I filed at your work. I'm sorry for everything I put you through. I've spent the past few years trying to figure out where I went wrong, and the truth is, I was jealous. Jealous of your success, your confidence, your independence. Instead of being proud of you, instead of supporting you, I felt threatened. And instead of dealing with my own insecurities, I tried to tear you down. That was wrong. Unforgivably wrong. I don't know if you'll ever be able to forgive me. I'm not even sure I deserve forgiveness. But I want you to know that I've learned from this. I've been in therapy, working on myself, trying to understand why I acted the way I did. I'm not making excuses. There are no excuses for what I did. But I'm trying to be better. Asterisk. Asterisk, you deserved so much better than what I gave you. You're an incredible person, smart, strong, generous. I hope you found happiness. I hope you found someone who appreciates you the way you deserve. Asterisk. Asterisk, I'm truly sorry. Elena. Asterisk. Asterisk. Colin. Asterisk. I read that letter 3 times, feeling a complicated mix of emotions. Anger, because an apology didn't undo the damage. Sadness, because this letter was 3 years too late. But also, relief, because it confirmed what I'd always known. I'd been right to leave. I'd been right to protect myself. And I'd been right to refuse to accept anything less than I deserved. I didn't write back. I didn't need to. I folded the letter, put it in a drawer, and moved on with my day. Because that's what healing looks like. Not dramatic confrontations or tearful reconciliations. Just moving forward. Living your life. Refusing to let the past define you. Now, as I sit here telling you this story, I want you to understand something. I'm not a hero. I'm not special. I'm just a woman who refused to be a victim. When I discovered what Colin and Tyler were doing, I had a choice. I could have given in, handed over the money, kept the peace. I could have believed their lies, doubted my own judgment, accepted their version of reality. But I didn't. I chose myself. And that choice changed everything. If you're watching this and you're in a situation where someone is using you, manipulating you, making you doubt your worth, please hear me. You have the power to choose yourself too. It won't be easy. People will call you selfish. They'll tell you you're overreacting. They'll make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. But those people don't have to live your life. You do. So protect yourself. Document everything. Build your case. Find people who believe you. And when you're ready, walk away from anyone who treats you as less than you are. You deserve respect. You deserve honesty. You deserve love that builds you up instead of tearing you down. And if you don't have that right now, you deserve the strength to fight for it. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. And please, if this resonated with you, leave a comment below letting me know where you're watching from. Share your own story if you feel comfortable. Let's build a community of people who refuse to be diminished. And don't forget to check the description box for more stories like mine. Stories of survival, strength, and reclaiming your power. Because at the end of the day, that's what this was all about. Not revenge. Not punishment. Just reclaiming myself. And if I can do it, so can you.